At the heart of it is we want to tell the people that we serve, our community that we love, that we are doing the best we can to meet best practices or exceed them. When the president comes out with new standards, that usually impacts ALEAP. We want to make sure we are on the cutting edge of both technology, service, quality, efficiency, and this shows that we are absolutely doing that.
Welcome to Shooting Straight with Brad and David. I'm Brad Carlyon, your Navajo County attorney, and Sheriff Klaus was unable to join us, but in his place is?
Bruce Tucker. I'm a deputy chief for the Sheriff's Office. I work for Sheriff Klaus.
And this month we have as our guests Lieutenant Whipple and Judy Wallace with the Sheriff's Department to talk about an accreditation that the Navajo County Sheriff's Office was able to get, and one of the few law enforcement agencies to get it. Bruce, do you want to just tell us what this certification is?
Sure. So Sheriff Klaus, Chief Swanee, we're extremely proud to share with the public that we are now the only sheriff's office in the state of Arizona to be accredited. We're the first. There are others seeking it, but we were the first to actually achieve it through the Arizona Law Enforcement Accreditation Program. It's basically a subsidiary of the Arizona Chiefs of Police Association.
Okay, what does accreditation mean, and why is it important to Sheriff Klaus and the Sheriff's Department to receive that?
Sure, great question. So when they established the commission for the Arizona Law Enforcement Accreditation Program, otherwise known as ALEAP, our sheriff was appointed to the commission as the only elected official. That's part of their bylaws to have an elected official. And he brought me on board as an assessor with my experience to begin participating in this program, which means you'd go out to a law enforcement agency and actually see if they're meeting best practices. The ALEAP Commission established 176 basic standards.
176?
176, and below that is a total of 410 subsections.
So over 500, almost 6.
Well, no, 410 in total, but you have to meet all of those and be approved by the commission to receive this accreditation.
Lieutenant Whipple, I understand that you were tasked with the job of getting the sheriff's office to meet that. What did that entail for you with this 460 points you had to meet?
Yeah, that's correct. It's actually a big undertaking. On paper, you know, when you look at 410 individual items, you kind of wonder, how long is this really going to take? And when we first started the process, any agency that begins actually gets 2 years to complete that process.
So it's pretty arduous.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of agencies need up to that 2 years, and in some cases they actually have to ask for an extension just to be able to manage, being able to find proofs and evidence that you are meeting the standard as you go through the process.
Why is it important to meet the standard? Who cares? You're still going to be an effective law enforcement agency if you got the accreditation or not. Why go for it?
So what accreditation helps a law enforcement agency do is actually go above and beyond. A lot of the standards that they have listed are going to be at a normal practice for law enforcement. In some cases, state law will drive them. Best policy practices will drive the standard, but ALEAP and their commission actually got together and looked at what can law enforcement do to improve it and make it better, and how can we hold that standard higher so that accredited agencies are meeting a higher standard, performing better practices than normal, which is better for the agency and for the people that we serve.
In what way is it better for the people you serve?
Well, being accredited allows us to, with those best practices, the public can know and understand that when we're arresting people or when we're responding to calls for service, our policies based on those standards dictate how we manage a situation. And so in a lot of cases, we in the past we only had to do certain things, but now we're required to do even more. We're required to engage with our victim services. We're required to engage with our communications team to have better communications. We're required to engage with our evidence team to have better practices and more security when it comes to maintaining evidence. Our reports, actually, there's a lot of standards related to reports that make us write better reports that we can submit to the county attorney's office, and documenting information no matter what kind of call it is. So those are kind of a few examples that help us do more than what we were doing before.
I appreciate the better reports.
Yeah.
So you had 410 points to look at. Could you do that by yourself?
Oh, absolutely not.
So what did you do? You had the task. How did you get it implemented?
With the experience from Deputy Chief Tucker, actually, and him kind of guiding me, we were actually able to get some volunteer help initially in getting the process rolling. It required a lot of different meetings with a coalition that exists in Arizona, which is the Coalition for
Arizona Police Accreditation, called CAPA.
And so we began meeting with the coalition first. We brought on volunteers to assist.
Is that your sheriff's auxiliary, those type of groups?
Yes, exactly. In fact, the first person we brought on was volunteer Guy Walters, who was part of the armed posse unit originally. And so we began engaging these and looking at these and kind of doing the snowball effect, taking small bites. That coalition that I was telling you about actually kind of gives us a list of, here's some small victories and things that you can do to get a few of these done first, and then the more arduous or difficult standards to meet, kind of work towards those as you go. And so after about a year or so, we considered writing a grant. Actually, we became aware of an opportunity that we could get funding to hire an accreditation manager. And so we submitted for the grant. We were awarded the money for that, and we were able to hire an accreditation manager full-time, which is where Miss Judy Wallace here comes into play.
So what I'm hearing before we get to talk to Judy is that you have other responsibilities. All the other staff members and the sheriff, whether they're sworn or not, have responsibilities, and this was almost too much for you guys to get done in that 2 years without the outside help like Judy.
Oh yeah, it definitely takes a team. When you consider an agency our size, and even outside, other agencies that are either smaller or bigger, some local agencies have achieved this accreditation as police agencies, and even they have full-time positions that are civilians that do only accreditation. So it definitely takes a team to do it.
So Judy, why were you interested in this process?
It fits in with my background. I have a background with policies and procedures, and I just thought it would fit, and it would be something that I could help the Sheriff's Department achieve.
And you had some prior exposure to the Sheriff's Department and other volunteer roles.
I did. I'm on the board of directors for the Sheriff's Auxiliary. I've been with them for 3 years. And then I also worked in our property and evidence department for almost 2 years.
You helped to reorganize that whole thing, if I remember correctly. So I guess you had to immerse yourself in all the Sheriff's Department policies and procedures. Were you familiar with many of them to begin with?
I was, just from working in property and evidence, from being part of the volunteer organization, and writing a manual for the property and evidence department. So that helped me to look at what the agency's policies were and make sure that the policies I was writing, they met each other.
So you had a good foundation to begin with, which was fortunate for everybody. What was your biggest challenge during this whole process?
I think my biggest challenge was knowing who to go to find the proofs that I needed. So making sure, because there's so many, and Lieutenant Whipple and Guy were well on their way when I came on board, but just knowing who in the agency I should be asking for a specific proof.
Bruce, how many people is employed by the Sheriff's Department?
Well, we have over 160.
So that's 160 people to look for, huh?
Yeah, in uniform, we have 63 deputies alone, spread across almost 10,000 square miles. So it's a challenge.
I can see the challenges you had. And I assume Lieutenant Whipple was good at saying, it's not me, but it's
He knew exactly
person.
who I needed to go to and helped me along the way with that.
So besides finding the right people, were there areas that you had to really prompt the sheriff's office to change their ways to meet the levels needed for the accreditation in certain areas?
So with ALEAP has their set of standards, and our policies meet their standards. So it was making sure that reviewing all of our policies, they met the ALEAP standards. So there were some that we had to make some revisions to make sure they were in compliance.
We all have policies. That doesn't mean we always follow policies. Is that a requirement of ALEAP to prove that the policies are being adhered to?
It is. So even though the accreditation is for a period of 4 years, every year we have to go out and re-find the 410 policies because they have to fit within a dated time frame of that 1 year. So every year you're repeating the process. So what that does is validates that you have a policy and now you have a proof that's meeting it.
So does that mean, Alden or Bruce, that you will always have somebody in Judy's role to make sure you're there?
Well, that's certainly the hope. And one of the big challenges is at the end of each cycle, and what we had to do for our initial accreditation is we open our doors to an outside agency. And in this case, our first accreditation, we had Assistant Chief O'Neill from Tempe Police Department was selected, and the Chief of the Paradise Valley Police Department, I forget his name all of a sudden.
Carney.
Chief Carney from the Paradise Valley Police Department came up on site, saw all of our records, saw our agency, met our staff, our command staff, conducted interviews with all of them, and then created a report which was subsequently submitted to the ALEAP Commission for review. Then we had to appear before the Commission this past July in Flagstaff, where the Sheriff and Judy were questioned by the Commission to ensure that we were truly worthy of receiving the award.
Do they have any lawyers on the other side really drilling into the questions?
They do.
They do, yes. Yes, they do.
Definitely.
So the Arizona County's insurance pool, the attorney who represents the county insurance pool in most civil litigation is actually a commission member, and he's very, very supportive of us having received this because that reduces our liability as a police department. We can show that we are meeting best practices.
A sheriff's department not only has patrol, they have dispatch, they have a jail, they have a communications unit, and more. Does this cover all of that?
So we're actually accredited with the National Institute of Jail Operations, also one of the very few agencies in the state to have that. We're the only one to have both.
So the jail is a different certification.
It is.
And so does the ALEAP one or ALAC, does that cover more the patrol or does it include dispatch?
So ALEAP actually does touch a little bit on detention, but not to the extent of what the accreditation through the National Institute of Jail Operations would cover. Maybe only about 5 to 10 detention type standards that it's looking for, because again, the accreditation process through ALEAP was actually originally designed for the police departments, and there's no statutory obligation for a police department to have a jail facility. They do have detention for the larger agencies, which is why there are some detention standards in place. But for our agency, where we have the patrol side and the jail side, a full active jail as the sheriff's office, then that's where both accreditations really kind of shine for us, having done that.
Not every law enforcement agency has a dispatch center.
That's correct.
Is there a separate certification for dispatch? Or is that touched?
There is a separate certification for the emergency. It's called emergency communication. So I think that's our next step, is to look at going for that accreditation.
So what I'm hearing is the Navajo County Sheriff's Office wants to be the highest standard possible and the citizens to know it through this accreditation.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And and because of that, to give the best service. This also help you with like grants?
Yeah, it does actually. Historically, there has been some discussion and information passed along where an accredited agency actually can qualify for grants easier, because it's one of the check boxes, for lack of a better term, that they can put in their application. By being an accredited agency, it shows that the agency is willing to work harder, to achieve more, and when they need extra funds for whatever purpose, then the grant process and the grant administrators can look at that and go, this is an agency that's willing to go the extra mile, obviously with that accreditation, to work hard for extra funding. So
And they know you meet minimum standards.
absolutely, yeah.
So you'll be able to bring in more resources and more benefit to the community because of this then.
Yes, absolutely.
So what's the next step? Is it just keeping up and making sure the policies stay the same? Is it expand at dispatch? Is it just sit down, catch your breath, and we'll deal with something new tomorrow?
Well, right now, so we are in year one. So I'm the beginning of collecting the 410 proofs that we need for year one, and I need to have all of those by July 15th of next year. And then it's looking at, occasionally ALEAP will update or change their policies, so need to be abreast of what ALEAP is doing, and then when they change their policies, then look at our policies to make sure they're meeting. And then if the proofs need change, then different proofs. And then I think at some point the thought is that we will look at doing dispatch for the next accreditation.
When you say proof, is it just here's our written policy, or is it proof here's our written policy and here's an example to show we're meeting those policy requirements?
So we have a program that everything is uploaded into, and so we load our policy into that program, and then a proof can be a photograph, which has to be dated. It can be an email that's dated. There are multiple annual reports that are required. They have to be dated. Then those are all uploaded into the system as well, and they match with our written directive and the ALEAP standard.
So Bruce, sounds like a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of effort. Why is it worth it?
You know, really at the heart of it is we want to tell the people that we serve, our community that we love, that we are doing the best we can to meet best practices or exceed them. When the president comes out with new standards, that usually impacts ALEAP. We want to make sure we are on the cutting edge of both technology, service, quality, efficiency, and this shows that we are absolutely doing that.
Well, thank you for your time and explaining this to us and to our audience. And thank you for joining us for this month's Shooting Straight with Brad and David. And please join us again next month.